Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. I trust everybody is doing well. So, welcome to the Aladin show and thank you for joining me. Today, I have another amazing guest. As you maybe have watched my other shows, I have absolutely wonderful guests with beautiful energy, and this show is about feeling good and it's all about upliftment, positivity, it's about empowerment, and that is the reason I do the shows. And I actually invite guests that actually share the same kind of ethos as myself and energy as myself and want to help people around the world. Today we are going to talk about public speaking and also speaking to influence. And I'm sure many of us out there maybe a bit of not scared, but a bit afraid to kind of go onto stage and do about public speaking. I think about 80-90% of the people, and I definitely know I was one of them as well at one point, standing up on stage and maybe in front of 50 people, even 10 people, and being just being kind of nervous, anxious, just to speak. So maybe I know all the information, but it actually gets stuck on my throat. So that's about public speaking. So many people out there actually are a bit afraid of public speaking. So I hope today you might get a bit of tips, and it's not just in front of people, but also maybe you've got college, maybe you have to do some talk in college or uni or something like that. And today you might get tips. You will definitely get tips in how to improve your public speaking. Now today's guest is Shukeel Chohan. He is a trainer and a coach. He's also helped businesses in business development. He's actually experienced in live shows, and he hosts shows on social media sites. And he's very well known. There's a lot of people following him and actually getting a lot of benefit from watching his shows. And he's a live stage speaker, and he also hosts a lot of events, and he does a lot of speaking engagement online. He's a communication trainer, speaker trainer, and he coaches people, thousands of people around the world regarding overcoming the fear of public speaking. And he teaches people of art of negotiation and influence. But he does there's so many experience he has behind which he will go through. He's been trained by top people around the world. So welcome, Shukeel. Are you there?
And you know what? It's a really great honor to be invited back to the show.
It was lovely to get you back. Obviously, I went over very little of your background. There's so much that you have done. I would love you to just quickly go over the other stuff that you have kind of done in your life and help people in other parts of their life.
Yeah, sure. So thanks for the introduction. Very, very kind and very nice of you. So some of the stuff that I've done, it's all around influence. It's about uplifting. Like you said, you know what? We're really, and I love what you do as well, because I know every time you post, every time you speak, it's all about changing people's mindset. It's about getting people in a better position than they are right now. I love what you do, and I think there's a lot of alignment, and that's why I love coming on your show, and I love watching your shows as well. So it's about uplifting people. It's about putting people in a position of power, because if you can get your message across, you can exercise influence over people. And if you can exercise influence, you can get what you need. Okay? And we all in life want to get whatever we can. We all want to be able to get our way. We want to win our conversations. We want to win it, whether we're buying something in the shop. We want to be able to win in an interview situation, or if we're speaking to or presenting. We want to be able to sell our concept and get people to buy into that. Okay. And that's what I've been doing for decades. But in terms of teaching and teaching public speaking, I've been doing that full time for the last sort of 7 years. It's been absolutely phenomenal. I've also worked, I'm heavily involved in the personal development industry. So my experience started way back when I was only 17 years old. You can see that was a while ago because I've got some grey hairs now. Okay. Well, the ones that I left are gone grey. Okay. And I've basically been busy teaching, coaching, and one of the things that you just said earlier was about 80 to 90% of people. This is real. 90+% of people are absolutely petrified of the thought of public speaking. And what happens is, in fact, the research says death is more preferable than public speaking. I find that remarkable because I've never seen anybody die of public speaking. Nobody ever needed an ambulance. Okay, but there is a genuine fear. That fear in people is real. So part of what I do is I help people overcome that anxiety. So that heart racing. You probably remember your first time when you spoke. Your heart was racing. Your palms were sweaty. You even forgot why you're even there or what you're going to say, and you've forgotten your lines. And now you're looking at all these people are looking at you, and you think, "Oh my God, what have I done?" And you've totally forgotten what you were going to say. So there are so many things in what I do to help people get rid of these issues, to make sure that they don't lose track, they maintain focus, they maintain connection with their audience, and their audience is actually in tune with them. Because the worst thing is when you're speaking to a bunch of people, you've got a crowd or an audience in front of you, and you don't feel a connection with those people. Because there's no connection, you've lost that. You've lost your flow. It's really, really difficult to get flow. So yeah, these are things that I do, and as part of what I've done, I've worked with some of the big organizations. So I was part of the team that brought Gary Vaynerchuk to the UK for the first time back in 2017, and also worked with the Tony Robbins team. I mean, that's the biggest organization for like multi-speaker events all over the world. I was a sales trainer for their London team. Yeah. So sales and communications is my thing.
Well, I see. I see on Facebook, and I see that you'd really give back, and you'd really share your experiences. But regarding public speaking, why is it important that people should learn public speaking? Is that important, or
it's I tell you what, it's definitely very, very important. The single biggest thing that holds up people's career progression is their inability to speak up and participate and negotiate. So not only do I get people who want to work with me because they want to become stage speakers, but some people actually just want a better job, or they've got a presentation to do at work. So, I mean, recent clients that I had, one was actually a job interview, another one, and that she did get it in the end. So it was a very high paid job. It was overseas, and there were a lot of applicants. There were like 2,000 applicants that she's competing against. So 1 out of 2,000 to get the job is amazing odds that she got that. And then for people who need to do presentations at work. Now I come across people who approach me and say, Shukeel, I've got all the great ideas. I talk about my ideas to my colleagues, but I can't present them. And somebody else gets to present my ideas, and they get all the accolade, because nobody's interested in whose idea it was. Mm-hmm. People are interested and will remember the person who spoke, because words are very powerful. So we have to understand what we say is very powerful, but equally what we do not say is even more powerful, because people take note of the fact that you are not contributing, or that you're not stepping up to the mark, or that you're not claiming your space. So I'm really, really big on helping people to step up, claim their space, claim your rightful space. Put your foot down and say, this is my space. I'm going to be heard, and I'm going to exercise influence, and I'm not going to be a bystander. I'm going to be somebody who gets noticed. For all the right reasons, by the way, not for the wrong reasons.
Oh, wow. Well, that sounds great. I mean, with my own experience, as you you were kind of mentioning some of the things that people go through, and I did feel at one point, my tummy going, and everything I've forgotten in my head, and I stood there and I'm like, oh, what am I supposed to talk about? Oh my God. But as the thing is, people coming to yourself and getting a bit of training, it does help so much. And
with my difference.
Own experience, doing kind of stepping into that and not worrying about making mistakes. I think everyone needs to take that first step, rather than saying, "Oh my, you don't need to be perfect," the first time or the second time.
Yeah, here's the thing, Aladdin. Everybody makes mistakes, okay? And it's okay to make mistakes. But what you don't want to be doing is become an expert at making mistakes. So, like you say, then there's a point where you think, okay, let me get some training or coaching, because if it's important for you to get your message right, then I think it's important to get some advice on doing it better. Okay. Because that's exactly what I did. Look, I wasn't, none of us are born as professional. You weren't born in a TV studio, okay? And I wasn't born on a stage, in front of an audience of 1,000 people, okay? So we were born all in the same way, quietly in a hospital usually, okay? And so everything that we have, all the skills we've got, we've learned these skills over time. And so it's just really, really important to be able to develop and learn those skills and make that effort and actually make an investment in yourself. Because when you make that investment, you're making that investment. It's a one-time investment for people, and it's there. You've got these skills for life. And what happens is people start finding that they start getting better results in everything that comes their way. So you get better at negotiating. You get better at dealing with people. People have said to me, Shukeel, I got more money for my house that I sold, or I bought a house and I got a big discount because I just implemented some of your strategies in communicating with people, in exercising influence and negotiation skills, because that all becomes part of it as well. And just making yourself heard in a particular formula that makes people cling on to some of the key words that you say and how you say things. So, it's like how people watch you. Why? Because you come across well. You've got this style that you've developed over a period of time. Because I've known you for a few years now. Yeah. So I've seen as well, I watch your videos and I look back about how you were maybe in your early days to what you do now. Now you're the consummate professional. But people have got to understand, you were not born and you didn't just fall into this. You had to make the effort to go through the changes and develop.
Definitely. I think, as you said, it's a step-by-step process, and we all need assistance and help and coaching to, if as public speaking is important, it does make a difference, and it can, doing business or anything, just by as you mentioned, the words are very powerful, and how you use it and how you come across, it does influence in whatever you're doing.
The outcomes change. Yeah. The outcomes change. If you can get people to pay attention to you, see, here's the thing. Most people, when they're speaking, they're not conscious of what's going on in the other person's mind. So part of what we talk about and what we teach is about being aware of your surroundings, being aware of the people in front of you, and understanding who you're serving, your audience. And when you've got all that going on, it starts becoming so much easier to be less. And this is part of the problem, that people get fearful because they're focusing on themselves. So one of the things I tell people is that do not be selfish. When you are scared, it's actually because you're selfish. Why are you selfish? Because you're worried about yourself. Your focus should be so much on serving the person or the people that you're speaking to that your fears are insignificant and irrelevant and no longer an issue, because you're so focused on bringing value to your audience or the person or people that you're speaking to. Generally it's people, because here's the thing, all of us can speak to one person quite comfortably because we do it all our lives. And all of a sudden, you get somebody who's, for the first time, they're speaking to the largest group of people they've ever been. Maybe for some people, that might be 5 or 10 people. For some people, the largest group they've ever spoken to might be 50 or 100 or 1,000 people. Okay. But all of a sudden, mentally, there's a barrier because it's something in their mind they think they've not done before. So automatically, they tell themselves, I need to be scared because I've never spoken to 1,000 people or 50 people or 100 people. Well, the reality is none of that matters. None of that is relevant. When your focus is on serving and getting your message out there and not on yourself, it starts becoming so much easier. And then there's a lot of other things that we do about just breathe and relax. You've often seen, like Pop Idol, for example, is a brilliant one. You know, when they're behind the stage and they're waiting to go on, they're doing some routines, they're doing some rituals, they're breathing, they're doing some meditation. You know, even to this day, especially if I'm speaking in front of a small group and it's familiar, I don't do that because it just flows now. If I'm going to a new event and I don't know the people, it's a whole new environment, a new audience, then guess what? If I don't do my rituals, if I don't do my breathing, if I don't do my practice in my mind and my follow through, and in my mind, if I don't see myself connecting with the audience, guess what? I'll flop and I'll look like an amateur. Oh. Okay. So I do all that even to this day, you know, after speaking for years and years and having spoken in front of like thousands and thousands of people now, I still do that, purely because you never get to perfection. The development is constant. The learning is always a thing. And just to make things easier, what I do is I chunk everything down into threes. So if I know I'm going to talk about something, I'm going to break it down into 3 parts. So this is what they call the power of 3. Okay. And it's a well-known concept for psychologists and psychiatrists because the brain absorbs information in a beginning, a middle, and an end. So when I'm speaking, I've got a focus on my beginning. So in this interview, people will see there was a beginning, there was an intro. And then there's this middle bit that we're doing right now. Yeah, okay. And then there's going to be a distinct ending as we tail off towards the end of the interview. Okay. And there's a reason for that format is because the mind can focus on little chunks at a time and it doesn't get panicked about, oh my God, what am I going to say for 30 minutes in this interview? So I don't have to worry about talking for 30 minutes. I just have to worry about the beginning, the middle, and the end individually. You know, and that just makes it basically takes the burden off you and it makes you think, oh my God, thank God. I don't have, although I'd love to talk to Aladin for hours, you know, if I could, okay, because we have great conversations, where, you know, when we're not at work, okay. But for that purpose, just break it down. And you then relieve yourself off the pressure. It just makes life so much easier. And don't rely on scripts. You know, people often think they've got all their notes in front of them. They're going to write everything down. At the most, just maybe have bullet points. You know, so even I, for example, will sometimes have just key points that I've written down. Even put them behind the screen or behind the camera, so I don't have to maybe pick up my book, or I can look at you, for example, and I've got my notes behind it, and nobody can tell. You know, so it's something that I give as a tip to people who are just beginning. You know, that way, then they'll come to a point where they don't need any notes, and you'll get to a point eventually where you can just do things off the cuff. I mean, I now will sometimes I'll speak in front of large audiences, and I've been asked this the other day, like, did you just do that without any, like, did you not need any bullet points? And I say no, because I'm telling my story. I'm sharing my knowledge, my expertise. Why would I need notes to remind me of my own expertise? You know, I've lived my life. You know, it's like if I'm reading about somebody else, if I'm going to talk about somebody else, then maybe I might need notes or a bullet point. Okay, so because I'm talking about somebody else. But if I'm talking about my own lived experiences, then I just have to tell myself, Shukeel, you've got this. You did it. You were there. So just repeat what you already know. You know, and I'll tell you what, people will be surprised how natural it starts coming across to them as well.
Wow. I mean, obviously you've got experience on that. And maybe people watching saying, oh, he sounds fantastic, the way he speaks and everything is flowing, and they might think it needs about years and years of experience, but that's not the case. You know, you don't need to, as long as you shared some of the points, tips on how you could kind of lay out your talk, and what you could do maybe behind the scenes and a few things. That was the next question, by the way, for me to, you know, if you could, how people could improve their public speaking. And I know that you have shared some of those tips just now. If there's anything else that you think that people need to know, any other tips?
Yeah. I tell you what, do some practice. What a lot of people don't like doing is they don't like hearing their own voice. They think their voice is horrible. Now, when I first started doing interviews on social media, I played back and I thought, oh my God, I sound terrible. But other people say, no, that's you. You sound okay. You actually sound good. You've got a decent voice. But to me, it sounded different. And it takes a little while to actually get used. And you probably experience the same when you listen to your own first recordings. You thought, my goodness, that doesn't sound like me. Because we sound different from how we sound to others. And the playback always sounds different. And eventually you get used to hearing the playback. So what I recommend is do some practice and record it. And then play back the recording. Okay? And get used to hearing your own voice. And by doing that, you'll also see where you make mistakes, where you could sound better, where you could sound more engaging, where you could be more busy engaging the audience rather than talking to the audience. You speak with the audience and connect with the audience. So one of the things that, in particular, it's really, really important getting connection with people. So one of the big tips is don't talk at people, have a conversation with people. Speak to people as if that one person in the audience thinks that you're the only person in that room with them. Create that such a depth of connection, even if you've got lots of eyeballs looking at you. Create a connection with people so that you actually have eye connection, because a lot of people I hear, some silly advice that I hear from amateur public speaking trainers is don't look at them in the eyes, look over their heads.
Okay, that's a good tip.
And I mean, that doesn't sound good at all. I mean, it's something that you should avoid, because if somebody's talking to me and they're not looking at me, even if they're on stage, I can tell if somebody's generally looking my way. Yeah. And I have random eye contact with people. So I'm making sure I'm looking at the people over there, I'm looking at the people over there, I'm looking at the people in the middle, at the back. And I scan around to everybody. So I include everyone. Okay. It's very easy to miss out the people who might be on the sides or people who might be a little further back. And a lot of people will just focus on the people at the front. You end up then with a very large number of disengaged people. And what that does is you can see who's interested or not, because people start fidgeting, they start doing things, they're not looking at you, and then that distracts you and makes you a weaker speaker. But the most powerful experience is when you've got everybody in the palm of your hand, they're all on the edge of their seat, they're all looking at you, they're not looking around, they're not fidgeting, they're not drinking water or eating crisps, which is the worst thing that can happen with all that noise going on. Okay. And they are entirely focused on your words. And when you start getting that connection, because you've made the trouble to have eye contact, really, really important is having eye contact. Then there's, I can throw in a couple of other things as well for your audience, is to speak, but with tonation. Change. A lot of people, when they first speak, it's like they're reading a script and they are very boring and they are petrified and they want to get away as soon as possible. Okay, they will want to get away as soon as possible. So what you want to do is be animated and, be focused, use your hands, use your body language. People, when they speak on stage or especially on Zoom cameras, they're absolutely petrified, they're frozen still, they do not move. They're not expressing any body language. 80 to 90% of your communication is not what comes out of your mouth. It's actually your physical presence, your body language. And what happens is they stand still and they freeze and only this moves. And you will lose connection, because we're visual animals. We like to see.
Yes.
So as well as listening, we're watching with our eyes, those who's got sight. And what happens is you build that connection with people. And this makes a huge, huge difference. So, whether you're now, typically a lot of it was on Zoom, that was a lot of the training I'm doing, because people actually needed training on how to present on Zoom. Because remember, being on camera, you haven't got a live audience. It's very difficult to actually present on Zoom. It's not as easy as it sounds. So I had a huge demand over the last 2 years for people who wanted to become better Zoom presenters. And again, the rules were very, very similar in sort of engaging with people, connecting with individual people, actually getting like a nod from individual people. Getting people to, and just like what I'm now, I just said getting a nod, and what were you doing? You were doing that, exactly that. So this was just an example to people that, look, I'm just talking about it and immediately you're nodding and you didn't even realize it's just subconscious. So what you're doing is you're appealing to people's subconscious, but you are the person who's the master of all that. You understand about how to get into people's subconscious. As a novice speaker, you won't know that, but as you start practicing, these are things that you start developing. And you create this amazing connection with your audience, and people start loving you, and then they want you back. And that's probably why I'm back here today, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, you are doing a wonderful work online. I could see it. You're going live on various social media, and I could see what you're doing. And public speaking is one of the things that a lot of people have approached me in the past, saying, "Oh, I can't stand here, and speak to people. I can't." Or, as you mentioned, the Zoom now, everyone's since the COVID thing, people are going online. And they want to get better at public speaking, and that's something that's growing really, really fast. And as you said, people on Zoom may be quite tight up. They might be like frozen, or it's maybe not coming across clearly on Zoom. And I think what the service that you're providing is going to help. It's actually helping so many people. And I think I'm sure the people, the viewers that are watching the show would benefit from getting your expertise today. So I just wanted to say, I mean, we're nearly running out of time. We've got about 5 minutes, but I wanted to get some things in about speaking with influence. If you could maybe give a short kind of overview of that.
Yeah. So one of the key purposes of speaking is to speak with influence, is to exercise influence. And for most people, let's say, for example, you're a TV presenter. Now, you may have a show and you want people to go and do something. Okay, as a result of your show. Yeah. Well, what you're doing now is you're trying to create influence, because you want people to go to a certain website. You want people to take some certain action as a follow-up to what you've just spoken about. And what you have to do is you have to have total clarity on what it is that you want them to do. And you have to speak with total clarity. Now, what happens is, I see a lot of people who are still novices, and I'm not knocking people for being a novice, because I was a novice at one time as well. There was a time when I was probably, I can't remember now because it's such a long time ago, but I know there was a time, my very first time, in front of a lot of people, I was petrified and I was sweating. Okay. And I know I wasn't any good at all. So, but to be able to understand and speak with clarity, to have all your bullet points in your mind beforehand is really, really important. And to be able to speak with influence means that you get things done the way that you intended to. So you want a specific outcome. And I think if people actually do a lot of practice and focus on the words that they're using, a big part of the influence is actually focus on what language am I using. So am I using decisive language, or am I using weak language? So if I want somebody to do something, okay, or I give instructions, but I give instructions with a smile, okay, and I'm also using my body language, which is open, positive body language. But what I'm not doing is I'm not commanding orders at people. I'm not pointing fingers, because all of a sudden your face didn't look very happy the moment I did that, because it makes a big difference. We react to the physical, to the body language that we see. So a lot of the getting influence is about having the right body language, about having the right facial features, about smiling at the right times, about having that connection. I see a lot of people, for example, in business, when they're talking about the money, they don't have eye connection. They'll look down, well, that'll be £100. Yeah, but they don't look at the person they're speaking to. Okay. They won't even get to the money. Okay, they'll talk about everything else except for the money. So I get a lot of people who are my clients who are coaches and speakers, and I get other speakers and trainers who work with me as well. And the big hang up for them is about, how do I speak about the money? Yeah. So the simple thing is, don't worry about it. Just get straight to the point and say it with a smile. The things that are difficult to say are so much easier with, like I'm doing now. And I'm smiling, and I know you're smiling back because you can't help it. Now, if you're smiling, what is it? Are you more likely to take positive action and walk away from negative action when you're smiling? You are, aren't you?
Yeah.
So I'm more likely to create influence in the way that I'm speaking, in the words that I'm using. Now, the words that you use with influence, that really comes with a lot of practice. Okay. That comes from like having decades of, I've got 3 decades of sales experience now. That is all about, selling is all about influence. It's all about getting the outcomes that you desire, but it's got to be a win-win. So creating influence is about getting an outcome that is a win-win for both parties.
Wow.
Why is it good for you, and why is it good for me? And vice versa. And if we can get that, then guess what? We don't have any friction. We have a meeting of minds. Okay, I understand, and I'm also asking questions. So part of influence is to ask questions, getting to the point of what is it that you really want. It's not about me trying to enforce my service or my product or my way of thinking on you. It's about, because I might have had one idea when I started out, but now that I've asked you some questions, I've actually found out something new about you. And I've now found out what really makes you click, or what kind of communication style makes you click. And now I'm going to come in with an angle that fits in with what you really need and what you really want, rather than the idea or the product or service that I'm actually trying to push on you. Okay, so it's about a meeting of minds. Wow. Yeah, it's about a meeting of minds, and it's also about being prepared to compromise as well. It's about being prepared to meet somebody halfway, even, or give the impression of meeting halfway and still having that upper hand of influence. Some people say that's what's the word? I'm trying to think of the word now. The words just slipped my mind. Where not in an abusive situation, where it's always a mutual win-win. So you're not leveraging negatively against people. And if you do that and speak in ways that have a productive outcome for both parties, then it makes brilliant. It's brilliant for everybody then.
Well, thank you, Shukeel. We've actually kind of run out of time. We could, speak about this hours and hours of this.
We could go on, yeah. It's a subject that can go on for ages.
And I would love to get you back again and maybe talk about so many other things, because obviously you've got expertise in many areas. So just kind of share quickly where people may be watching, they would like to contact you and maybe speak to you. Where could they find you?
Easiest thing for people to do is just jump on Facebook. Look me up under Shukeel A Chohan. I've got a Facebook group as well, which is a business networking group. There's about 8,000 people in there. Online Networking Club. If you just look up Online Networking Club on Facebook, or just look me up. You got my spelling here, Shukeel Chohan, and I'll be happy to speak with you guys. I've got a business page and a personal profile as well on Facebook. That's where I mostly I'm in Instagram as well. I'm still growing the Instagram, but you can find me. I think if you just look under Shukeel Chohan, you'll find me on Instagram as well. I've even got a TikTok account. So I've only done a couple of videos there though. So I'm still working out how TikTok works.
Oh, you need to try. It's quite easy to do, I think. But I said that people could just type your name in and any social media.
If you type my name in, you'll find me.
And you'll find them. Well, thank you, Shukeel, for that coming on. Thank you for everybody watching the Aladin show. I really appreciate your support. And this show is all about upliftment. It's about empowerment. It's about feeling good. All the guests that come on, like Shukeel, they want to help people in different ways. So, please share this with your family and friends. Share this show with other people. I'm sure people will benefit from watching. Well, thank you again, and keep an eye out for my next show. And take care, and speak to you soon. Bye.
If you have a dream.